Let's take a look at our unit on equal shares division and multiplication strategies. In this unit, students learn that multiplication and division are about working with groups of items and are inverse operations. In the first week of instruction, they begin learning a new model. They learn that division can be used to find the size of each group when sharing an amount equally. So they begin with a starting value. In this case, they have 10 blocks. They separate the blocks into two groups. And we use language in the form of a phrase, shared equally among, for them to understand the model and conceptually understand division. They move on to where they're going to be creating the starting value themselves. So 12 basketballs, they create them, they separate them into bins for equal size groups and complete the sentence at the bottom. As they move through the week, the sentence is replaced with an equation, and they are introduced to the idea of the unit, in this case players. So students read a word problem, they create the model, and they have to identify what does the quotient represent. And at the end of that first week, the models fade and they're working with numbers only, with and without context. In the second week, they go through a similar process, only this time they're learning that there can be remainders when a starting amount is divided and shared equally. So they have 19 shared equally among 3. You'll see that they start again with language, but this time they have a phrase at the end, blank remaining. In this particular example, 1 remaining. As they move through that second week, just like in the previous week, they're going to work with context, and they're going to move away from the sentence at the bottom to the equation, and they're going to be putting in the unit that the quotient represents. And they move into numbers only, with and without context. In the third week of instruction, we move on to multiplication. And we're learning that you can use facts that you know to help you find the facts that you have not yet mastered. In previous units, students worked with the 5 plus n, and they worked with other strategies to create 2 parts to a problem. In this unit, they're working with the subtraction principle. So they begin with models only, and then they move to where they see an equation like this example here. If they don't know 4 times 9, students might know 4 times 10. So on the right, they create a model for 4 times 10, and then they X out 1 block in each group. So students learn that each parenthesis represents a different part of the model. So the first parenthesis is the green, and the second is the gray X out blocks. And as they move along, they create the models, but they're expected to put in the partial products, and then finally they put in the entire product. They also learn that they can take away an entire group. So once again, they start with models only. They move through putting in what's in the parentheses. So if I don't know 9 times 7, I can make a representation that has 10 groups of 7 and then take away 1 group. I move through the same process of working with the parentheses first, then the partial products, and then the product. Students also work once again with the commutative property during that week. They create a group on one side, this case 2 groups of 3. Then they have to create 3 groups of 2. The students can rotate the model, drag one on top of the other, and see that they actually represent the same value. And they move from completing the sentence into using equations with multiple models. And finally, in the 4th week of instruction, they're doing a number of lessons where they're working with numbers only. This unit also has tool investigations. In this particular tool investigation, students are working with unknowns. They start with one unknown, and as they progress, they have multiple unknowns until they have a very divergent example at the end that can have multiple different equations for 9 times 2 or 9 times 8, 9 times 5, and then they complete the equation. This unit also has a real-world investigation. Remember, those are 3 tiers. And in the first tier, we're provided with Amy's data. She's going to the amusement park. She has 100 tickets, and she wants to get on as many rides as she can. Students complete the chart, and they figure out how she can get on the rides that she likes multiple times. And at the end, they're designing their own trip to the amusement park, bringing a friend, using their tickets, and they complete the chart for the rides that they'd like to go on.